Welcome back to another episode of A Life Behind the Bars podcast show. Welcome again, Dr. Melvin Armstrong Jr., hip-hop's newest doctor, in the building, in the place to be. What's up, 2nd Street? Ow! As always, we coming to you live and direct from 2nd Street Cigar Lounge, America's best cigar lounge, the world's best cigar lounge, the universe's best cigar lounge. Even on Centauri 3, they talking about 2nd Street Cigar Lounge. You can find us down here, DTLA 124 West 2nd Street. Y'all thought I was going, I already know. Yeah, that's just an inside joke for y'all. Don't even worry about it. Don't even worry about it. 2nd Street Cigar Lounge, greatest cigar lounge in America. Come down here, high quality smokables where your pipe dreams go up in smoke. All right, y'all. My riff for this week is, I want to send a shout out to Mike Gilbertson and Ted Hearn. Mike Gilbertson produced an album this year called Quartet. Ted Hearn produced an album this year called Sound from the Bench. All of those gentlemen were finalists and lost out to Kendrick Lamar for the Pulitzer Prize. You already know in music, hip-hop doing big things, Pulitzer Prize winning. And so that caused me, as I was looking on blogs, looking on these particular websites, and they're talking about how that in many respects the Pulitzer Prize is ahead of the Grammy Awards for recognition of hip-hop's contribution to music, to the culture. And so I went back and I wanted to investigate this thing for myself, being the inquisitive lad that I am. And it came apparent to me as I witnessed that only twice in the history of the Grammy Awards has a hip-hop album won Album of the Year. And according to my research, that's in 1999, Lauryn Hill, The Miseducation of Lauryn Hill. And in 2004 with the Speaker Box Love Below by Outkast. And so what that caused me to think about for my riff this week is I wanted to go back in time and let's do some retroactive awards for the Pulitzer Prize list. So I wanted to go back in my riff this week. I wanted to talk about the Pulitzer Prize Award in 1999 was given for the album Concerto for Flute and Strings Percussion by Melinda Wagner. And we all know in 1999, the Pulitzer Prize Award for music shouldn't have went to Sister Wagner or Wagner in the German context. But we all know in 1999, the greatest album of that year was 2001 by Dr. Dre. So we're going to give the Pulitzer Prize retroactively to Dr. Dre for 2001. In 2004, the Pulitzer Prize went to Tempest Fantasy by Paul Monique. And I want to say in 2004, we definitely should take that award back from Brother Paul and give that to Outkast for Speaker Box Love Below retroactively. Very interesting enough, in 1992, the Pulitzer Prize for music went to The Face of the Night, The Heart of Dark by Wayne Peterson. The real winner of that award, the year 1992, goes down in history. No disrespect to Wayne Peterson, but the winner of the real Pulitzer Prize for the contribution to music in the year 1992 should have been this album. Perhaps you've heard of it. It's called The Chronic by Dr. Dre. So, Wayne Peterson, I need you to give that to Dr. Dre immediately. In the year 1993, the Pulitzer Prize went for Trombone Concerto by Christopher Rouse. And again, no disrespect to the work of Christopher Rouse, but we all know, if you can remember back, for some of y'all millennials and other young folks, I know you can't remember back to 1993, Dr. Armstrong and some of the folks at 2nd Street seem old as hell. But the real winner, perhaps you've heard of this individual, not Snoop Dogg, but then he went by the moniker Snoop Doggy Dogg for the album Doggy Style. So, Christopher Rouse, send that to Long Beach, or Chino Hills, I think is where Snoop lives now. Send that immediately. The real winner. In 2014, the Pulitzer Prize went to Become the Ocean by John Luther Anders. 2014, we all know, was a pivotal moment in hip-hop history, the real winner of the Pulitzer Prize. So his award this year should have been the second. Good Kid, Mad City by Kendrick Lamar. He should already be on number 2. So John Wayne Luther Adams, send that to Kendrick Lamar immediately. And finally, in the year 2005, second concerto for orchestra by Stephen Stuckey won the Pulitzer Prize. We know the real winner of that award should have been in the year 2005, Allo Domini, in the year of our Lord. For those of y'all who remember history and anthro class, is the documentary by Compton's own The Game. So that concludes my riff for this weekend, retroactively awarding Pulitzer Prize for Best Contributions to American Music, 1998. We also remember the Pulitzer Prize winner escapes my name. And for those who think Dr. Armstrong has an anti-New York bias, absolutely not true. 1998's winner, send that to Jay-Z for Volume 2, Hard Knock Life. All right, that concludes my riff for this week. This week we have a great guest on the Life Behind the Bars, really intelligent brother representing for Beige Rage and all things light skin. I'm just playing. The artist Sam Kofa.
Hello, hello. I am a lifetime member of the Light Skin Nation.
Yeah, you're Light Skin Nation.
Yeah, that's right.
You, Prince, Chico, and all the DeBarges.
Yeah, Tevin Campbell.
Tevin Campbell. Is Tevin Campbell light skin now?
Have you ever, now? Has he always been? I'll be sure.
I'll be sure. Okay, I'll be sure. I definitely do that. But Tevin
too.
Campbell was kind of like caramel skin, but I ain't never looked at dudes like that. But no disrespect. If that's your thing. That's just not how I get down. But hey, you like it, I love it.
Right.
Anyway, as we always do, brother Sam Kofa.
Yes, sir.
Great name. We're going to get into the origins of your name and your music. I was really excited about this.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
My brother, we're glad to have you here. 2nd Street, let's welcome the brother Sam Kofa. Sam Kofa, as we always do, let me present you a cigar.
Yes.
Years in the making. This is one of my favorite by Tatawahe, or as some people call it, Tatawahe. Or as I call it, Tatawahe. Tatawahe. Not to be confused with the Cajuno, also made by Tatawahe. Right now, this is what we call the Hershey Kiss.
Okay.
Big thing, Nicaraguan Puro.
I'm
so good. I ain't gonna tell you what it tastes like, but if it's me, so you already know what I think it tastes like. That part. For those that don't know, meow. All right. You know what I'm saying. So let me present that to you, my brother.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Tatawahe was the first cigar I ever smoked, actually.
Was it the first cigar you ever smoked? Tell me about your first cigars experience, bro.
I'm fairly new. I'll be honest with you. My good friend Justice and Tony, who's here in the audience tonight. What's
TC?
up?
What's up with it, baby?
Yeah, they both started smoking cigars pretty heavy this year. And I mean, I hang out with them constantly, so you know, it was inevitable that I would get into it. And yeah, the first cigar that I was given was by my friend Justice, and it was a Tatuaje.
Okay, man,
Yeah.
let's chop it up, man. Let's get up into it. How did you get into music, man?
You know, nobody in my family really comes from music. I was kind of the
You come from an academic background.
I come from academic background.
So talk to me a little bit about that.
Yeah, as you know, my dad is heavily educated, and when he found out that he has a son that would rather be a musician than an educator, you can imagine how happy he was about that. Okay. I'd say probably around high school, I got into drama a lot. So
okay.
I was in theater, into performing, and my brother actually I could credit him for a lot of the reason why I got into music. He's much older than me, 9 years older than me, and he was always putting me up on music. A lot of alternative.
Okay.
It was the 90s, so grunge rock and all that kind of stuff.
Okay.
And
so flannel shirts wearing.
Sure, yeah.
Got flannel scruffy.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with it.
Nothing wrong with that at all.
Hey, Nirvana smells like Teen Spirit. Da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da. Hey, one of the most memorable riffs, one of the most memorable albums out there. If you didn't have flannel on, I got you. So, man, let's talk about that a little bit. So you grew up in a academic background.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I'm struck by when I hear your music, One, let me just tell you like this, and I no bullshit. I wouldn't tell you this if otherwise. You are really good at rapping, man. You got flow, baby.
Thank you. Thank
and
you.
I wouldn't say that if it was otherwise.
I appreciate
so
that.
So let's
man.
talk about that a little bit. What were some influential like books or literature or something that you had coming up? Because I definitely, when I hear your flow, I hear that in the delivery. I hear that. So let's talk about that. What were some of the influential literary works that you came into contact with that you think influence you now?
Man, there's two books that come to mind. One book called actually three books.
Okay.
One book is called Ishmael.
Okay.
Have you ever heard of that? It's a book about a guy who learns about life from a giant gorilla who speaks to him telepathically, and it sounds way more sci-fi than it is.
Okay.
It's totally not. It's like really heady. It's a really, really good commentary on
So
life.
Ishmael was what was
Ishmael.
the other two?
The other two would be the Keber Nagas, which is essentially the Rastafari Bible.
Okay.
And it's not too far removed from your traditional Christian Bible, but this one, the one that I read, had a really, really good foreword and by Bob Marley's son Ziggy Marley.
Okay.
And to the third book that's probably the most influential is the Four Agreements.
Okay.
Four Agreements.
Very, very much so.
Yeah,
What was the most impactful agreement for you?
be impeccable with your word.
Be impeccable with your word.
You know?
One of my favorites, and I definitely think that that's something that I've tried to do in my own life. So, man, let's get into this thing. I want to go in. Let's break down your name, Sam Kofa.
Yeah.
Which is clearly a play on words of Sam Kofa. Let's
Sure.
talk about that.
So, I'd say
Well, for the audience, I think some people will know, but tell them what Sankofa is.
Right. Yeah. So
then your connection.
Sankofa, as far, and I hope I'm not butchering this, but as far as I have learned and researched, Sankofa is derived from a Ghanaian, or is it Ghanaian proverb that says,
However you want to say it.
right, that says, it is not wrong to go back for that which you've forgotten.
Right.
And that proverb is symbolized by a bird that is laying an egg on its own back. Or no, that is retrieving an egg from its own back.
Right.
And so, my early 20s, most of my 20s actually, were all dedicated to being creative and, creating music, recording music, performing. I toured. I was booking a venue for a really long time, and that was pretty much all I did, and that was for the most part what I thought I was going to do. And then at one point I decided, I was like, I need to get an education, and that totally like derailed my whole shit.
Well, let's talk about that a little bit, man. Where did you grow up? I know that you kind of bounced around a lot of the country, but where did you grow up, and how do you feel like growing up where you did affected who you are today as an artist?
So I would say I grew up in Sacramento.
Okay.
I lived in New Jersey till I was about 8.
Okay.
But in I guess in the literal sense, I grew up in Sacramento. That's where most of my formative years were spent. In Sacramento, I have a love-hate relationship with the city.
Okay. Why so?
It's a big tiny town.
I got you.
You know what I mean? And there's a lot of you can develop a big fish complex there.
Okay.
Big fish, tiny pond, and everyone thinks they're big fish.
Okay.
But it's it's a really amazing place to cultivate your skill, cultivate your craft, hone your craft, and then leave.
Okay.
Leave the nest.
Right,
I had a lot of amazing experiences there growing up. I actually didn't even, growing up, I skateboarded. I didn't really do any. I grew up in a pretty decent area. I didn't have like there weren't any. I didn't grow up in an impoverished area or anything like that. So
Okay.
it was.
So it sounds like that. Let's talk about that a little bit more in terms of how you grew up. I think a lot of times, and one of the things that I love about hip hop or the diversity of folks that you can come from, you have people from all walks of life and nationalities. Now, how did that kind of inform you? Because it sounds like to me, and when I hear your music, very complex, and we'll get into a couple of your songs later. Did you ever feel like that you had to like overcompensate that? I felt like sometimes I've heard rappers who might not have grown up in the so-called hood feel like they either got to overcompensate for that,
Right.
or feel frustrated. Did you ever feel like, because again, like you said, your dad got a PhD.
Yeah.
He's been not only an academic but an administrator,
Right.
And so, how has that been for you?
Yeah, when you first start out, not coming from an, a life like that, you kind of think that like, oh yeah, that's what rap has to be, I guess,
Right.
but like to me, even when I wasn't, writing or recording hip hop, I was, and maybe this goes back to like some sort of Catholic guilt or something like that. But
Okay.
I never felt like I could lie about what I was putting out.
Okay.
So it was a healthy challenge for me, because I was like, this is a music that I fell in love with and I want to continue creating. And now it's like, it's how do I make it true to myself without letting this experience change me?
No, I got you. I got you.
I could have very easily, taken a different path and let the what I thought hip hop culture would have been.
Now,
engulf me, but I
in
didn't.
terms of your thing, like I've met both Sam and Sam Kofa. Like, how does your personal life inform like your music? What's the interplay between that? I've heard sometimes people who have sat in that chair talk about that, like our first guest here on the Life Behind the Bars, the rapper Justice.
Yeah.
He talked
One of my best
about
friends.
that. Oh, really? You know Justice? Okay,
Yeah.
fantastic.
Yeah, he's one of my best friends.
Right, great brother right there. But one of the things that Justice and other folks that have sat in that chair that you're currently occupying, Justice said something that I thought was profound. He said that Justice Benz, his rapper pseudonym, that person is a lot freer than Justice that you might meet on an everyday. So like, tell us, for the audience who doesn't know you, like what's that distinction, what's the interplay between you as an artist and who you are? How do they inform each other?
Yeah, I think that Sam Kofa allows Sam the person, my kind of deepest, intimate kind of thoughts and perspectives on life and love and experience. I think Sam Kofa allows Sam to speak about those things in a comfortable in a setting that feels comfortable to him.
So talk to me more about that. It sounds like you're saying that so there's like an artistic distance, or do you feel like that your kind of persona of Sam Kofa is different than you are as a person? Like, talk to me more about that.
No, I wouldn't say that. I would say that I have a highly active brain, and any given moment, I could be thinking about what I want to have for breakfast tomorrow morning,
Okay.
or I could be thinking about the prison industrial complex and how it's put black and
Okay.
brown people in in an unfair place in life.
Okay, well,
know what I
no,
mean?
right.
And so
right.
when I
and to not see any kind of like, I guess what I'm saying, like distance between the two, like
those two thoughts could be directly next to each other,
right. Prison industrial complex and avocado toast.
Avocado toast, exactly.
Run in your mind.
And so
I like that.
and Sam Kofa is is allowed to, for lack of better words, allowed to speak about those things freely,
Okay.
without without fear of judgment. I guess without fear of judgment so immediately, because I mean, once you put music out, then people will.
Well, no, I got you. Speaking of that, man, I want to talk to you about a couple of your lyrics and all that stuff. And like I said, man, you can rap really well, rap good.
Thank you.
One of my favorite tracks of yours is a song called "The King's Discourse." And so I want to spend time. I want to tarry here for a couple of minutes.
Okay.
And so in that King's Discourse, really great lyrics in there. But I want to start with, at the end of that song, you have a sample from one of my favorite intellectuals, a dude that made me want to get my PhD in philosophy, the luminary intellectual Cornel West. Black creative practice and genius, but ignores the creations, that ignores the conditions that created them.
Absolutely.
So in thinking about that quote, Cornel West says, America loves consuming black creative genius and artistic practices, but wants to ignore the creation, wants to ignore the conditions that cause those creations. And so I think about that myself, being born in Memphis, Tennessee. It's like everyone wants to sing the blues, but doesn't
want to experience the blues.
Right. No one wants to experience the particular melancholy that causes the blues to spring forth. So talk to me a little bit. Why did you put that quote on there? Let's problematize that. Let's talk about that more.
Yeah. It was multi-pronged. Cornel West has if memory serves me correct, he has a bit of a history with Sacramento.
Yes,
I believe he's
from Sacramento.
From Sacramento, right?
From Sacktown. Mother has elementary school named after her there.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, that I didn't know.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of what kind of spurred it, and then you know
he is from Sacramento.
He is from Sacramento, and a lot of it was I didn't have another verse, but I wanted to put that song out.
Yeah.
And so I was just
but your verse, your first verse is very hard, man.
Thank you.
Very hard. I really love it, and I purposely use that sexual language too. Very hard. Not flaccid at all. Not.
I'm glad that you have some
papers
on your lap right now.
Right.
I'm alarmed that they're raising.
It's not sexual for me. But anyway, but no. So you talk about that. Talk to me more about that. So because not everyone would have used a Cornell riff like that, and I feel like that was very pointed. So talk to me like that.
I did it because he is one of, at least at the time, was one of the he was the most prominent advocate for hip hop in the intellectual atmosphere.
That's true.
You know,
right?
And it was so
he put
rare.
out 3 albums. One was Sketches of My Culture, and he specifically talked about that. You know, his point is, and Cornell, one of the things that I love about him is that he was intellectually honest enough to say, you know, I can't rap, but the reason why I put out those albums was to make a connection to younger folk. It's
amazing, yeah, and he knows. He knows the importance of that, and even though like for all intents and purposes might fall on deaf ears to a lot of people, besides maybe people like you and I, he knows that's the vehicle that it's a vehicle that's significant and worthwhile.
And I think that other folks have talked about that as well. I know one of my favorite Jay-Z lyrics is. You know, when he says, you know, I penetrate pop culture, bring them a lot closer to the block, right?
Yeah.
So that, you know, these particular things that you're expressing come to that. So let me ask you a little bit about kind of like, I think this is a false notion, but some people have like this whole kind of enlightened rap versus trap rap, or this conscious rap versus ignorant shit, or whatever you have, all this stuff. But let me ask you this in the context of King's Discourse.
Yeah.
So in King's Discourse, you have a line that says, education is 9/10 of
the equation.
So I'm pacing through the study while I'm racing through these pages. What did you mean there?
So, I mean...
and talk to me, tell the audience, like, what does that... Because, like, it's very vivid.
I know, it's really heady.
Yeah.
I hear it now, and it's kind of embarrassing.
Yeah.
I mean...
But that didn't come from nowhere. So talk to us about, what was your headspace like when you're there? Education is 9/10 of the equation.
I was living in Mississippi at the time, and I was living on the campus of Mississippi Valley State,
Okay.
Wasn't attending there, but I was living on campus.
Delta Devils.
That's right. Jerry Rice's
Jerry
alma mater.
Rice alma mater, yeah.
And I was in the middle, literally 20 miles of cotton and cornfields in every direction.
Right.
I was going crazy. I found this beat, and I was just like, it was almost like my version of like angry rap, you know?
Okay.
And
so it was cathartic.
What's that? Yeah, it was cathartic, and yeah. So the education non-tense of the equation is, you know.
So I'm pacing through the study while I'm racing through these pages.
I pace when I write. I can't
Okay.
I can't stand still when I write, and a lot of times, literally the way that I write, because I still physically write, is I'll jot an idea down here. I'll get like 4 bars here, and then I'm like, oh, I think I wrote something back here.
Okay.
So I was literally racing through pages, piecing together this verse.
Okay.
And then as far as education non-intensity equation, you know, you at least at the point where I was in my life, you know, I felt that being highly educated was the key to a fruitful life.
Right.
And if you weren't, you know, maybe, you know, in my mind I was like, okay, maybe I'll stop at an associate's or a master's. Maybe I won't get a PhD. But that still has to be, you know, the majority of the equation of my life if I want to be.
Right,
you know,
because you grew up in that
right,
milieu.
and obviously my thoughts have changed on that quite a bit.
Well, but let me ask you that, because I think
Yeah.
that's an interesting thing. I also want to ask you about another part of the King's discourse. But you talk about that in education. One of the things that's very striking to me about your music is when I hear your music, 2 things strike me. And I want to see your reaction to this. One thing that is apparent to me, not just in terms of the complexity of how you rap and what you rap about, I'm like, this brother is really well read. And I'm also struck by a kind of sense of, I don't know where this brother positions himself vis-a-vis other black folks. So talk to me a little bit about that.
Yeah. It's,
because like I think that shines through. I was like, this brother's clearly well read, clearly a brilliant brother, clearly well spoken. But I feel like there's either some angst or there's just like, it almost seems like in your rap I also hear you kind of like searching for like a community, so to speak. So talk to me a little bit about that.
So my father's black, he's African American, and my mother's Ecuadorian.
Okay.
But if you saw her though, you would think that she was white.
Okay.
You wouldn't think twice until you hear her speaking Spanish. You don't even know. And
Okay.
I'm obviously light skin nation, L's up, and you know, growing up. So we grew up in New Jersey, in kind of a poorer part of New Jersey called Absecon, right outside Atlantic City.
Okay.
Most of our neighbors were you know, Italian.
Okay.
You know, worked in construction, so to speak, and
So they said you were one cool moolie.
yeah, exactly. You know, and so you know, being light skinned, you aren't. I won't say. I won't speak generally. Speak for myself, but I was never really accepted by black people.
Okay.
As a child, and even growing up, really.
Why do you think that was?
You know, it was, you know, not being black enough.
Okay.
And you know.
And what did that mean to you then? What does that mean to you now? Because I feel like I hear that in the music.
Well, it was confusing growing up because I didn't, you know, I was like, but I am, you know, and so how do I, what do I do more to prove that to you? And it was, you know, what do I got to, you know, I don't know, steal shit, sell drugs, whatever, like, you know, what things that I saw other black people doing, you know, like, is that something that I got to do to be accepted? Do I have to like act a certain way, you know, be hard, the study there? Because that wasn't in my nature, you know. I was a stereotypical light skin trait, but I was an emotional kid, you know, and so I didn't know how to be
So
accepted.
you were
by
Drake
that.
before Drake was Drake.
I was Drake. I invented Drake.
Okay,
Is the
Drake
crazy
is
part. Yeah.
Drake is literally it's so
Yeah.
like very like
Yeah.
Greek mythology. Drake was
Right.
birthed from springing from your head.
Exactly.
Okay.
And so and you know, with that in mind, you know, I was accepted by white people far before I was accepted by black people. But then even with that, you know, I lived in Mississippi. My freshman year of high school, we moved to Mississippi. Same story. I expected it. You know, black people weren't fucking with me, and I made friends with a lot of white people, and I thought it was cool for a while, and then that was the first place I heard when I was like 15 years old, 16 years old.
And then you realized you were in Mississippi.
Right, because they said, you know, after a while they're like, man, Sam, you know, you're cool. You know, you're a cool black guy. Like, it's cool. You know, you're black, but you're not a nigger. And I was like, see, like, what the like what? Like, so I'm just like stuck. You know, like,
Right.
and so that was a lot to work through as a kid.
Okay. Well, so I want to talk a little bit about that more, man. But again, another part of King's discourse that I love. There's a stanza in King's discourse where you say, "I'm the king of the jungle, king of the streets, panther and lion." What did you mean there? Because to me, again, that kind of bespeaks to like this dualism that you had.
Right, a duality.
Yeah.
The duality
So
of man, sir.
Yeah, so what does that mean? So like for you, this whole notion of you talk about, because we've had other interviewers who've talked about that, the rapper who I personally love, a really insightful brother, go back and check. We'll be putting up his thing, Cool Calm Chris.
Yeah, I'm
which I
performing with him.
understand that you, Cool Calm Chris, and you know, Free Will will be doing a show at the Lexington in Los Angeles, April 27th. All of y'all cop tickets, come see that. Buy 2 tickets in case you want to go more than once. April 27th. April 27th at the Lexington.
That's right.
What time do gates open? 7 o'clock.
7 p.
Check it out. A Life Behind the Bars alumni show. That's not what it's called, but I'm just going to take credit for it.
We're going to slate it now. Yeah, exactly.
We did that. But talk to me more about that, man, because like I feel like in your music,
Yeah.
what does that notion of blackness mean? Talk to me about how you problematize it, because though you sound like that in your work, or that it's always been this conundrum for you being biracial, right? And being someone, you know, because there's been other rappers that talk about that. I know Logic talks about that, being biracial, but because his phenotype, his epidermis is such, you wouldn't know it unless he tells you.
Right.
J. Cole talks about that. Drake has talked about that as well. But talk about that, man, that, you know, because it seems to me to be almost paradoxical that you said that you grew up in this way of not feeling black enough, but professionally now you're doing an art form that no matter how you slice it is inextricably linked to the black experience.
Yeah. And
So talk to me about that.
I think that it helps me identify as what I know myself to be. You know, kind of to answer your question, going back to the beginning of King of the Streets, King of the I can't even remember on lyric, but you know, the King of the Jungle,
King of the Streets,
Panther
Lion
and
and Panther and Lion.
Right. You know, King of the Jungle is that's a lion, right?
That's
I hope I
correct.
got that right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So lions, you know, synonymous with Africa. So that's kind of a callback to Africa.
Right.
King of the Streets, Black Panthers.
Right.
So we still.
And then you talked about the Black Panthers. Then you
Panther
talked
and
about
Lion.
Rastafarian.
Right. And so it was kind of a call to the Black kings that you know, even though people black culture didn't identify with me, that was kind of my call to be like, I identify with these Black kings. These are the people that I still look up to.
Right, because you
know?
talked about that, like growing up having the Rastafarian influence.
Right,
like,
right.
So I'm pretty sure there were pictures of Haile Selassie and all these different stuff. And
not so much. Not to that point. Yeah.
Okay.
I had dreadlocks for 9 years.
Right, no, and I saw that. And we'll get into that, talking about that with the locks and all that stuff. So it seems like, well, let me ask you this in this way. It seems like the Sam, both the individual, but then Sam Kofa, the artist, you seem to be more comfortable in your skin now, today, in a way that maybe for the audience you weren't earlier.
Right.
So how did that develop? How did that happen for you?
I think that that came with age a lot. I remember when I was on tour, I was playing guitar for a spoken word group in 2008.
Okay.
And we were at an after party, and I was talking with one of the poets, a guy named Dalek, who's a very very dear friend of mine, amazing rapper, amazing poet. He's on tour right now with a solo show called Spirit Trials. I highly suggest you check it out whenever it comes to your city. And I was telling him I was like, I've got all these things, all these songs I want to put out, I mean, not above that, I've got all these things I want to say, but I'm afraid to say it. And he was like, what? Like, what are you afraid of? And I didn't really have an answer for him. I didn't know what I was afraid of. And so as I've gotten older,
what do you think that now? What were you afraid of?
Judgment. From
who though? Artists talk about that though. Like, but who is that judgment from? Where does that fear come from?
I think for me, it's a deep-seated judgment of my peers and my family because, I guess they do know me as one way, and whenever they've seen me perform or they've heard songs of mine, they're like, "Is this you? This is you?"
Right.
And so I guess it's a fear of judgment. What was Kendrick Lamar's lyric? He was at 28 years old. My biggest fear was being judged, and I was like, "Damn, I feel that 100%." Because as an artist of any medium, what you're doing is you are conveying your most inner thoughts, feelings, intimate details of what's inside your brain, and you're putting it on display. Willingly.
Yeah, and so I feel that. But one of the things that I'm interested, and I want to tarry here a little bit. So you talked about earlier in our conversation, growing up having a dad that's an academic, and growing up in a milieu where you were incredibly well read and all that other stuff. And it sounds like at a certain point, you felt like maybe you were a disappointment. To them,
for sure.
But I want to hear you talk about that a little bit more now, because like when I hear you rap, because I can always make an argument, and one of the things that I love about hip hop or all of the arts is that there's a way by which, like when I listen to your King's Discourse, there's a life world and a complexity of thought and narrative quality about that you're never going to read from even one of mine or your dad's academic articles. So for me, in a certain way, it almost seems like you're as much, if not more, of an intellectual that your dad or folks may have wanted you to be, even though you didn't kind of transgress the normal path that they wanted to do. So talk to me a little bit about that issue of disappointment and how you've had to reconcile that, because artists often tell me that artists often say that, well, that it's my personal life, it's the professional life, it's how they inform each other, but they talk about disappointment, disillusionment, despair, death, dread. This is what Cornel West talks about. He said life is ultimately about dealing with the D's. And the D's are disappointment, disillusionment, dread, despair.
And death.
Yeah. The final D, right?
D, yeah.
The real big D is not what's, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. It's not me. That, but it's death, right? But so now talk to me about that, man, because you grew up in academic, you talked about shame or kind of guilt.
Right.
But I can make an argument that in hearing the King's Discourse, and I've never met your dad, he sounds like a very accomplished academic.
He is.
But I imagine that, so this is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I've had students come to me, said, because they've heard the Miseducation of Lauryn Hill, that they now want to read Carter G. Woodson's The Miseducation of the Negro. Or because people have heard Razk's album Soul on Ice, they've now wanted to read Eldridge Cooper's book Soul on Ice.
Soul on Ice, yeah.
Or, The Roots had Things Fall Apart, which is
Point, which is another
which is an homage to Achebe, right?
Things
so
Fall
talk
Apart.
To me, right.
But side note, that's like that was the album that made me fall in love with hip hop. Just because you mentioned it, yeah.
Right,
we'll get to that.
We'll get to there and chop that up. But talk to me about that, man.
So,
a feeling like a disappointment,
yeah.
even though you're more literary, I would almost contend, than even if you had a went. So in some ways, I always wanted you to tell, as a person who has a motherfucking PhD in philosophy, there's stuff in King's discourse that you're never going to get for academic articles.
From a dissertation.
Right.
Yeah. I grew up in an educational household, but I also grew up a Catholic, and I bring that up because
talk to me about that.
Yeah, with many religions.
Anybody got fire? Where that fire? I need that fire.
There's a great smoke, by the way. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. I just look like this, baby. You know, I just look like this.
With most religions, with a lot of religions, I should say, they're very guilt driven. So I grew up, I was confirmed, I was had baptized, communion, the whole nine, and that was a lot of guilt put on you. So that's I think there's already a seed of disappointment there already, right?
Okay.
And speaking to the need to not want to disappoint,
right?
I tried my hardest to be an educational person, and it didn't work out, and
but you are though. That's what
right,
I'm saying.
right.
So
I guess when I going back to saying like, I'm scared of what's gonna. I'm scared to put out what I think. I maybe what it is like. I'm scared to really be who I know myself to be, and then come to find out I am in fact disappointing everybody in my life, to be like, what, you're like a rapper, like, you know what I mean? So, right. But with that in mind, I think that there was a part of me that wanted to prove that you, just because this is your medium or this is the path that you choose, speaking in terms of hip hop, doesn't mean that you are not educated. Doesn't mean that you can still, punch in that educational weight class. I've met academics, PhDs, professors, blah blah blah, and no disrespect to your profession at all, but I've met some of the dumbest people who are highly educated, who have such a skewed view of life. That they view it through this like very rigid, educational,
very elitist, very class.
Not even elitist for sure, but a very like rubriced way of looking at life.
Yeah, the point takers is what I called them.
Yeah,
but talk to me about this in terms of now, like we've talked a little bit about the distinctions between Sam and then Sam Kofa, the artist. Mm-hmm. How have you had to kind of enforce some of the boundaries on your life? Talk to us about that.
That's an interesting question. I don't know if I actively have. I've always, anytime I've had a show or anything like that, or I had a a tour video that came out, this other, I always shared it with my family. I always shared it with people who who I guess now that we're talking about it, who I would think might be disappointed by that, because that was still me saying like, look, I'm not just sitting at home smoking weed, this, that, or the other. What you think I'm doing? Like, this is me. This is what I do. So I don't know if I've ever. I think the hardest boundary I've drawn was, I spent a year in Mississippi. I spent two separate years, but the last year that I was there, I was pursuing a degree in music.
Okay. And
even that, after a year of that, I realized like higher education is just not for me, and I drew that boundary. I said, look, I tried this, and it does not work, and I have to continue doing what I want to do.
Well, talk to me a little bit then about that, because in many respects, I mean, you are in still some ways very much autodidactic, and by that I mean like self-taught. Speaking of Mississippi, I would say home to two of my favorite rappers, David Banner and Big Crit.
Big Crit.
Not to take anywhere your shine. That album, Forever is a Mighty Long Time, incredible album, sonically, musically. Go and get that. Support Big Crit. true
Support the
soulful
South.
Southern hip hop. Put some South in your mouth. You know what I'm saying? But talk to me about that, man. Just because it seems like in all of your music, King's Discourse. I want to also get a lyric from the hook from one of your songs, Just Like This, is very powerful to me because you could make a beat just like this, but you ain't going to be able to make a song just like
Just like
this.
right?
So
Yeah.
talk to me about that. Like, what did you mean there? Like, you could make
Yeah.
a beat just like this,
Right.
but you ain't going to be able to make a
you
song
can't rock it like
just
this.
like
Yeah.
this. What did you mean there?
That was
Which I like it, and it's simple, but it was so much. It was multi-layered. So,
Yeah.
So let's peel back some of those layers.
So with that, a big part of of being a rapper and MC is there's a braggadociousness that comes with it.
Right, certain bravado.
Yeah, some bravado. And I guess that was my version of that.
Okay.
And it's like saying like, yeah, okay, we take 10 MCs, I'll give them all this beat. You're not gonna do like A, you're not gonna do it like I do.
Right.
B, I'm not gonna do it like you do.
Right.
I my argument would be that I'm gonna do it the absolute best. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I
But I've
stand by
also
that,
thought that let me push back here, man, because I also thought that there was a deeper meaning there. To me, in hearing that, is like you could make a beat just like this, but like the braggadocio is that because I'm me, and that what I love about rappers or what I love about artists for general is that artistic specificity that you're coming from seems to be like only you can do that, right?
Sure.
So talk to us a little bit about that.
Well, in my
Like I always tell people, I'm not trying to do nobody else. I only do Dr. Melvin Armstrong Jr.
yeah, exactly.
Because to do anybody else
Would be a disservice.
would be a disservice to me because you know what? I can't be the next this, but in me being the first me, they ain't that. You know what I'm saying? Like I always tell people, like motherfuckers, sorry, pardon my language, motherfuckers can't walk in my shoes because it ain't people that both got GEDs and PhDs.
right. And plus, you
Right.
wear a size 15, I think.
Well, you know,
like-
extra wide, but you know, hey. But we all know size don't matter unless we talking about wallets and wallets and. But hey, like I always tell people, paper cuts hurt too.
Keep it all plastic.
Yeah, hey, paper cuts hurt too.
I would say, in my real life, I guess, for lack of better terms,
Or outside when you put down Sam Kofa, the
yeah,
persona.
exactly. When you put down the persona, there is sometimes, or at least at that point in my life, there was a lack of confidence in a lot of what I was doing,
Really?
and
Talk to us about that though, because like to me, like you don't seem to me to lack for confidence now.
Yeah, fake it till you make it. No, I mean it comes with I think it comes with age and experience and realizing you and realizing that regardless of whatever judgment is put upon you, that doesn't have to change you. It shouldn't,
Right.
And so with that song, it was me taking some of that confidence back and saying like, okay, yeah, okay, there's tons of rappers out there like, okay, oh, you do this, you do that, or whatever, but like this song right here, there's no way that you can do it as good as I just did
Because
it.
I'm doing it, right?
I'm doing it. Yeah,
Okay, so
exactly.
let me ask you this, though, man. How do you envision yourself? Because I know you've produced stuff before, you've arranged stuff, and you're a nice rapper. You definitely got flow. How do you envision yourself? So if I ask myself, Sam Kofa, so if I ask you the question, Sam Kofa is, what's the answer to that?
A creative, an artist, because
What does that mean to you, though?
so hip hop or music in general is not the only medium I've ever explored. I'm
What are some other ones?
I'm a photographer.
Okay.
I've done professional creative works for big professional companies. painted. You know, I mean, to me, each of those are outlets for
Your creativity.
for creativity. And in some respects, I
But
would.
you
I
rap really good though, man. So is there
you.
something about the rapping that? Is there something like? When
I love words.
okay.
I love words. You
Tell
know,
me more about that.
You know, let's get caught up in the semantics. That's that's how I feel.
Okay,
You know,
okay, I see
going back to being impeccable with your word. You know, my homie Jason, who's here in the audience tonight. You know, we get into conversations all the time about like, the
Also, for you, there's both a literal and a figurative with that four agreements.
Right.
Be impeccable with your words.
Word, exactly. Right. You know, and so it's like
I see you look at the big brain on Sam. Look at the big brain on Sam.
Look
Are you
at
a
the
smart
brains on Brad.
Well, let me ask you this though, Sam.
Okay.
What they call a quarter pounder in France.
Royale with cheese.
Okay. You know why they call it that?
No. Damn, I forgot.
The metric system.
The metric system.
The metric
That's right. Well,
shout out to Tarantino. You use the N word too much. I'm gonna fuck you
way
up next
too
time I
much,
see you,
way
nigga.
too much.
Now, how about that? How about that? For all those Quentin Tarantino, I'm gonna fuck you up when I see you, nigga. Now. Okay. Who are you outside of your artistic persona, man? How does that inform your art? So how does Sam inform? I had a moment there. You got to forgive me. You know
Oh, please have more moments. We can have all the moments.
I'm gonna fuck Quentin Tarantino up.
Okay,
Know
I
that.
want to
No,
see it.
on site.
I agree. He does use that word.
But if you
a lot,
put me in the
excessively.
movie, though, we might talk about it, though, baby. No, but I'm still gonna fuck you up. All right. So how does who you are? So like you talked about this, the issues of being Sam, being biracial, coming from this background, not feeling black enough. How does all of that like inform who you are as artists? And so like what I'm thinking here is like I used to do this thing in my class. I would offer students $100 if they can tell me how many times 50 Cent got shot.
Was it 9?
Yeah, it was 9 times, but no one ever gets that right.
Hold on, you get.
But you know
do
why
I get that C note?
No, because but no, the
I'll
reason
sign up for
why.
the class real
But
quick.
no, and the reason why
drop it,
is
bro.
because like I always tell students, 50 Cent never got shot. Curtis Jackson got shot 9 times, right? And so
Semantics.
what that particular thing expresses is that how does Curtis Jackson inform 50 Cent? So what I'm interested in is you talked a lot about your personal experience. How does Sam, all of those insecurities, all of those things inform Sam Kofa?
Man, I think it.
That's a good question.
That's
brother.
a
good
solid question.
I just look like this,
I'll give you
audience.
that,
I
yeah.
just look like this. I just look like this.
I think Sam informs Sam Kofa to be truthful and at times literal when need be, but to also not not to let the literal not to let the literal choke the abstract from coming through also.
Okay.
Because
Tell me more about that. What do you mean there? I think I know what that means, but
yeah, it
explain
was pretty fluffy. Freestyled it, but I think it made sense.
no, it did, but explain it more.
There's so much in everyday life that just kind of goes by us. It glazes by us because we, even the way that we speak, I think, like at least like 30% of the way we speak is just like common phrases, like, oh, how are you doing? I'm good today. Oh, cool. How are you? Like, and it's a perfect example, like when you say, like, I toiled with this a lot as a kid growing up Catholic. It was like, man, if someone asks me how I'm doing and I say good, but really I want to tell them like, well, I thought about ending my life this morning, but then I had a cup of coffee and now things don't seem that bad. Like, I just lied to them. You know what I mean? Right. So it's like, I think Sam informed Sam Kofa that like, that's your space to let those literal thoughts fly.
Okay.
But through the lens of hip hop, it also lets you be more abstract. With that thought, it's like, they ask me how I'm doing. I tell them I wanted to end it, but then I had some coffee, and now I don't seem so offended. You know, or you know what
No,
I mean?
I got you. I got you.
It allows you to kind of like to.
So it sounds like you get a freedom from being a rapper.
Yeah, absolutely.
In a way,
absolutely,
that you don't necessarily feel like. And so many artists have talked about that. I mean, whether that was Justice Benz, Free Will, Cool
name,
Calm Chris. Yeah, all who will be doing the show April 27th at the Lexington. Go get 2 tickets. Talk about their freedom in there. And so let me ask you this, though. Do you feel then, like, because sometimes artists talk about it, like being up there on the stage, like the rush and the freedom that you feel up there, do you feel then in some ways like your life outside of your artistic persona is like left wanting? Like if you're at Whole Foods, is like getting cruelty-free wheat is impactful. That's actually not a real thing. I just made that shit up. But I imagine this is California.
Yeah,
that cruelty-free wheat is probably like a real thing. But like, talk to me a little bit more about that. Like, do you feel like that freedom that you get as an artist, is it left wanting in other aspects of your life?
I don't think so. You know,
Why not?
I think, you know, because it starts to create a kind of a compartmentalization, you know, and it's like, you know, I could leave that in the booth.
Okay.
I can leave that in the on stage and
Okay.
know that I spoke my piece. You know, I've now put that out there. I've let my truth have its moment to live, and that helps to fulfill that want to express myself. And then, you know, I could leave the stage and, you know, go to Whole Foods and get some cruelty-free wheat with my girlfriend and go home and cook a pizza, you know, and be like, yeah, this is tight, for sure, you know. And the thing is, like, I feel like myself in both situations.
Okay, very good, very good. So you don't feel that disconnect. So it seems like that it's become less.
No, because if you have to have a balance, you know. If you're just an artist all the time, being an artist is fucking. It's hard. It's depressing, right, you know. Yeah. And you know, when I find myself in an artistic space for far too long, which I've done, it starts to, because it's sometimes really hard to create, you know, and it starts to affect you. And I've gone through like some really deep depressions because I was focusing too much on creating and being, and I'm also kind of a perfectionist when I do create. That it's you start to overly judge yourself, which then starts to affect who you are as a person.
Okay.
You know.
Well, thanks for that, man.
Yeah.
Let me and I thank you for your candor and for being so open and honest with us. We definitely appreciate that here on the Life Behind the Bars, man.
Right.
One of our standard questions that I always like to know is this proverbial Mount Rushmore of hip hop. So, in no particular order, but tell me like 5 MCs, the other 5 albums or something that really influenced you and why?
Man.
Besides yourself, of course.
Sure.
Right. Because don't hit us with we all know that Sam Kofa is the greatest MC.
Dylon.
Right.
I'd probably have to start with Black Thought.
Okay, why?
Because Things Fall Apart was just like, that's when I finally understood. I was like, oh my God, this is fucking gorgeous.
Okay.
Like this music, this art form is gorgeous, and they did it so perfectly on that album. So Black Thought.
Which album specifically?
Things Fall Apart.
Things Fall Apart.
Things Fall Apart for sure. MF Doom.
Okay.
MF Doom is just, man, the the intricacies of his poetry and the way that he executes it and the way and his story, it's him as an MC and as a producer,
Right.
It's incredible, and he literally just made himself hip hop's villain for a while,
Right,
and
right,
it was
right.
just he just really.
Well, I wouldn't necessarily a villain, certainly an anti-hero.
Anti-hero, yeah, we'll say anti-hero. So MF
Well,
Doom,
explain the difference though for our audience, like the difference between anti-hero and villain.
you're the intellectual. I'll leave that to you.
Well, no, man,
Yeah.
you the one who said it, man.
Well, but I might push back and say that he was the villain because
Okay, well, let's talk about that.
So his whole story was that his brother died. They were in a group called KMD. Then his brother died. Then he disappeared, and then he came back as this master. He used to perform with a stocking over his face.
Yeah.
At the Bowery. Was it the
Yep.
Bowery in New York? And he would just come up there, be super weird. They're hella skillful, and then he would, at one point when he became very, very popular, he would send body doubles to his shows and literally make his audience hate him for that.
Yes,
So
yeah.
like he encompassed his persona of being a villain. Like that's how dedicated. It's almost like being a method actor.
Right.
You know what I mean? But he obviously people still love him, and I got angry one time because I went to see him at Rock the Bells. He didn't show up.
Well, no, but the reason why I guess I was saying though,
Yeah.
like for me, my understanding of the difference between like so to use like a movie that's killing numbers now, like this is like Black Panther, right? So like a movie like Black Panther.
Killmonger
Is
will be the
Killmonger really a villain, or is he just an anti-hero?
Right, got it.
Right,
Yeah.
And
I would say
so,
anti-hero in that.
Right.
Yeah,
I would
exactly.
say anti-hero, and so like I know for people who really mess with MF Doom or mess with like let's say someone like Dr.
I was
Octagon,
gonna say Cool Keith or something.
yeah,
like that,
Cool Keith. I think that their position is much more of fuck what y'all on and
Right.
not hate me.
Well, and
but anti-hero, and it's like I'm just not on the shit y'all on.
it challenges people's persona of what an MC is, what hip hop is,
Right,
and that's what I love about most artists that I listen to. Like I love artists that challenge what people think or what people think something should be.
Right.
So yeah, MF Doom for sure.
Okay.
Fife
Got
Dog.
3 more. Fife Dog. Okay.
Fife Dog, rest in peace. And that's something I realized in the last couple of years that how much I love Fife Dog, and he had fun, and he was better than Q-Tip rapping for sure. Not that Q-Tip's bad, not at all. No disrespect to Q-Tip at all, but I think he had a little more mic control where Q-Tip definitely knew how to rock it. Like he knew how to rock a party and rock rock beats for sure. But Fife Dog he had that.
He has one of the most memorable lines I remember growing up. Let me hit it from the back. I won't get a
catch a
hernia, a nut on your couch. Now you have cement furniture.
Bust a nut inside your eye just to tell you where I come from. Yeah,
Right,
exactly. Kanye West is on my Mount Rushmore.
From Chi-Town,
Okay,
Southside,
that is what he
stand up.
says.
Why do you love Yeezy for more? There's so many things. Let's talk about it.
From the moment I heard drug dealing just to
Right, just
pass
to
your
get
money
till
till
we
we get
get
sky high. And when he says, if this is your first time hearing this, you are about to experience something so cold, I was like, I'm sold.
Right.
And so he was someone who didn't give a fuck what you thought about him.
That's
He's
true.
like, I am talented. I'm going to change this entire landscape.
Right,
You
yeah.
don't believe me. Nobody believes me. Watch it happen. And he did it.
Right.
He did it.
Well, to me, that's very interesting that you would talk about someone like Kanye because, like, I think the parallels between y'all are very similar, right? Both having parents that had PhDs, growing up in an educated milieu. And it seems like maybe one of the things that I hear you talking about with Kanye is, to be honest, like, I love Kanye West.
Yeah.
But when he first came out, like, I was really kind of like, I wasn't fucking with him. And it was part of it because like I just didn't understand like frustrated middle class blackness.
Yeah.
and it's. But the folks
We have the space.
right. No, but that's what I'm saying. But like, and I feel like Kanye gave voice to that.
Did. Yeah, he did. He
Right,
was,
going to the Gap and shit.
Yeah, going to the Gap. He didn't, he wasn't rocking tall tees. He
Right.
Honestly, what made me first identify with him was, when I in high school, like I shopped at the thrift store, so I come through with some, I shopped at the thrift store and then like some boutique stuff.
Right.
I used to shop this store called Icon. Vanessa Lopez is in the audience tonight. She used to work there. I used to go in there, pretend like I was going to buy expensive things. Just always buy stickers and T-shirts, whatever. And so I spend $40 on a T-shirt, and then I go spend $5 on like a wool blazer, and I wear some Nike Dunks this side or the other, and people were like, "What the fuck is this light skinned dude doing?"
Right.
And then Kanye came out wearing the same exact shit, and I'm like, "Here we go, that's my dude,"
Right.
And so, but through his career, he continued to challenge and push what people thought hip hop would be, and he changed hip hop. He changed hip hop with Beautiful, Dark, Twisted Fantasy.
My favorite Kanye album.
He changed that album. Changed hip hop from a programmed music, right? Like from the beats were programmed to each song was verse hook out. He changed hip hop from a programmed music to a composed music.
Well, I got
and
you.
from there on out, I think hip hop has been changed to what it is now.
You got one more.
Cool. One more rapper. What did I say? So Phife Dawg, MF Doom, Black Thought, Kanye, and I'll go with Drake, man.
What about Drizzy?
Drake, I mean, obviously
Light-skinned,
but he another artist who brought, I mean, it's cliche to say, but he brought a sense of emotion to hip hop that like hip hop was like afraid to have, like one of my critiques on hip hop is that it can be really closed minded because
in what regard? Talk to me.
With hip hop, it's like you got to be hard, you got to be this, that, or the other, blah 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 blah, and it's like for him to come out and talking about 2, 3, 20, 30 songs about being sad over a girl, or like actual like real life situations, deep emotions about real life situations like that was a challenge, and he successfully challenged hip hop to the point where now he's the biggest rap star, arguably one of the biggest rap stars in history.
No, I got you. Man, this has been, boy, time flies when you're having fun, man. So in terms of the wrap up in our last 2 minutes, where can we reach out to you? Social media, where's your upcoming shows? Let's talk a little bit about that. The mic is yours, baby.
Yeah. SamKofa.com features more of my photography, a couple of my past productions as far as like productions I've done for bigger companies, some voiceover work that I've done. As far as my music, you can find me Sam Kofa on SoundCloud, Instagram and Twitter is at Sam Kofa. It's all the same name, as you can imagine. That name wasn't really taken, so I got kind of lucky with that.
Okay.
Of course, I got the upcoming show April 27th.
April 27th, the Lexington,
that's right. In
Los Angeles, DTLA.
2018, the year of our Lord.
Allo Domini. Hey.
At the Lexington, me and Cool Calm Chris and Free Will. That's gonna be a
Life Behind the Bars alumni show.
That's right.
Ill MCs.
That's right.
Backpackers welcome. Flannel wearers welcome. White
welcome.
tees welcome.
That's
Black
right.
tees welcome. Dresses welcome. No judgments. Judgment-free zone. Hey, one more time. Let's give it up for Sam Kofa.
Thank you guys very much. Thank you for letting me be here.
Second Street Cigar Lounge. As always, we want to thank you for tuning in on SoundCloud, listening to us on iTunes, those tuning in on YouTube. Another Life Behind the Bars. Shout out to, special thanks to always to our director, Brother Joe, our sound EP, Brother John. Thank you to the live audience here, made the show as what it can be always. And I want to leave you with this last thought, which is, Quentin Tarantino, suck my dick.
Hey.